In today's video, we will be discussing Orientalism and its effects on Asian American women in contemporary film. In contemporary film, there has been a rise with Asian American representation, especially with Asian American women. Movies like Crazy Rich Asians or Everything Everywhere All at Once, where the leading characters are Asian American women, have empowered women like myself who have felt invisible while living in America. Although we've become more visible, it doesn't always mean an entirely positive thing when these portrayals still rely on Orientalist stereotypes of our identities. Before diving into these films, it's important to understand what Orientalism is. Edward Said, a literature professor and one of the founders for postcolonial studies, coined the term Orientalism to describe how centuries of knowledge that came from the West studying the Orient essentially shaped the negative perception that the West had on the East. Thus, despite not being educated enough about the East, Americans were already predisposed to the stereotypical image that's harmful to their culture and identity. We see the effects of this start to show through laws and policies. The 1790 Naturalization Act was the first policy to define eligibility for citizenship by naturalization, but it only applied to free white persons. It made legal distinctions for aliens ineligible for citizenship, which primarily affected Asians and non-whites. The 1875 Page Act built upon that framework by becoming the first law that controlled the immigration of people based on race, gender, and sexuality. It exclusively targeted East Asian women, labeling them as immoral or lewd. It demoralized their character and reduced their identity as commodities. It then laid the foundation for other exclusionary laws like the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. It wasn't just policies that contributed to the spread of Orientalism, but also American soldiers who had been stationed in the East. Because these military men already went into Eastern lands with pre-constructed ideas of what an Oriental woman was, such as either submissive or sensual, they viewed these women as sexual objects. After marrying them and bringing them into America, their Orientalist ideas also carried over, introducing the common Orientalist tropes such as the dragon lady or the lotus flower. All these factors have now affected how Asian American women were portrayed in film. During Hollywood's golden age, many Asian American women were overshadowed and casted as either vamps or villains, even being casted in B movies or bit roles. Asian American women like Toshio Mori were mistaken as Chinese and relegated to B movies, and there's Etta Lee, whose roles were mostly limited to subservient roles. The film adaptation of the popular opera Madame Butterfly, released in 1904, was one of the most notable films that exemplified the Orientalist trope of the lotus blossom. The term refers to an Asian American woman who is innocent and submissive but yet is still sexualized. This is seen in our main female lead, Chow Chow San, who submits to the American general out of love, perpetuating the stereotype of Asian women needing to be saved by a white man and fulfilling their desires. The Yakuza leader Oren Ishii in the film Kill Bill portrays the opposite trope of the Dragon Lady, who is a sexy femme fatale that is typically the villain. This exotic portrayal of her character with the stereotypical kimono, samurai swords, and being in Japanese gardens reinforced the Western lens of the East. Both of these portrayals only hypersexualize Asian American women and essentially reduce their identities into two ideas, one that is innocent and one that's sensual. Now, in modern time, we have seen better portrayal of Asian American women in film. As mentioned earlier, Everything Everywhere All at Once portrays Asian American women as complex individuals with nuanced problems, from the mother struggling with the acceptance of her daughter's sexuality, battling mental health issues like depression, learning how to address and communicate their problems, and finding identity, belonging, and acceptance of where they are.
I will always want to be here with you.
This is also seen in the film Crazy Rich Asians, where the female lead deals with the rejection from her partner's family, who believes she is not Asian enough as she grew up with American values. It represents the very common struggles Asian American women face in terms of identity, where they never feel like they are enough or that they fit into either culture. They face these conflicting expectations, but are expected to somehow meet both and are constantly measured for their capabilities in doing so. It truly highlights the complex, unique experiences Asian American women struggle with when it comes to identity and cultural authenticity.
But having been through it all, I know this much. You will never be enough.
While these films have been amazing at breaking out of the typical Orientalist stereotypes and writing Asian American women with way more nuance and complexity, it's still very important to note that there are still limitations that come with the film. They still only represent East Asians and doesn't portray the unique struggles and experiences Southeast Asians have. By centering around mostly East Asian narratives, it shows a message that all Asian American women have this singular identity that they experience, thereby erasing the identities of women from the Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and even more. Thus, it is vital that we should always remain vigilant and continuously critique and reject films that continue to reinforce Orientalist stereotypes. As a Southeast Asian American, I've been constantly tied to East Asian culture most of my life, and that's how people view me. We need films that not only show Asian American women as complex, human individuals that are more than just their bodies, but also the other cultural identities that exist in their lived experiences. A notable film that has exemplified breaking these Orientalist stereotypes is the 2019 musical drama known as Yellow Rose. It follows the undocumented Filipina migrant, Rose, who has dreams of leaving her small town in Texas and pursuing her dreams with country music. The film brings life and humanity into her character by writing her with dreams and emotions, and centering that as its focus rather than how sexual or exotic she looks. The film then reveals the harsh realities of being undocumented, as her mother gets detained by ICE. This leads Rose to go through the trauma of being separated from her family.
Hanapin mo yung sulat sa may notebook mo! Rose, takbo! Where are they taking you, Mom? Mom, what the fuck is happening? Run! Shit!
The film tackles so many issues like immigration, fear, trauma, and identity, and it challenges the singular portrayal that gets seen on the screen by showing the intersecting struggles that many Asian American women face in their lives. Another film, known as Oh Saigon, released in 2007, was an autobiographical documentary actually directed by a Vietnamese American woman. It centers around a Vietnamese diasporic family exploring powerful themes of the traumas from war, identity, and family relationships. The mother talks about her wishes for her daughter to be able to assimilate in American culture within the public eye, but still maintain her cultural identity at home, which again shows the complexities of Asian Americans trying to maintain two identities with conflicting values. It also shows clips of the father and how he speaks of how hard it is to deal with their struggles alone, as living in a primarily white suburban neighborhood means no community for them understands their unique lived experiences. The trauma of escaping war, leaving their country and identity behind, and trying to assimilate into a completely new environment is very complex and unique for many Vietnamese Americans, and the film does a great job of highlighting their struggles and shedding light on their realities. It is not enough that Asian American women are being represented in films if they're only represented in Western lens. We must acknowledge these stereotypes damage their identities. Modern times have turned the world completely online, and changing what is seen through what's being consumed daily can lead Asian American women to be seen as full, complex human beings.